We are all beautifully imperfect.
You need to pay attention to what they're saying.
You deny your weaknesses.
When you get people to appreciate each other more, look out for each other more, take care of each other more, reduce the distance between them, then they actually work better together.
Good morning. I'd like us to look at balancing the emotional intelligence with academics. Because what we see is that we've fed the mind so much that we've left the inner being or the soul of a child. As a result, we have these so intelligent people, highly intelligent, and we cannot balance now the emotional side of issues. And we have these social issues that we're dealing with. So the curriculum is based on that. And the platform is really in talking into teenagers, the young adults and the adults on a clear communication path so that we are the same level of understanding. Because you must remember, I'm going to talk about adults, we come from a time where things were not as they are today. And most of the time our parents were very present, or if not a parent, a grandparent. There was a sense of community which is not available at this time that we live in. And if we are honest, at this time we live in, for a household to function properly, both parents have to be at work. And who's then there at home to parent? Nobody. I've been dealing with young people that really it came in the focus that really there's no parent. Our children are parenting themselves. And what that translates to is that when you're in the workplace, as adults, we find this difficulty into releasing the wisdom, because there's that breakdown in the communication, because our children are being parented by TV, the internet, and also. So that's what the curriculum and the platform is trying to address. You know, I don't have a slide because I think I like attention, because I like everybody to look at me. My mother was a nurse, and unfortunately she passed on when I was 13 years old. But my mother left me with one thing, a principle that I still live by, that you have to do unto others as you like to be done to you. My father was an educator, and he left with one principle. He also died when I was still young. He said to me, be comfortable of who you are. And I always say this thing that you claim you are is not without the other. If you think you are smart, for us to say you are smart, we need to have a dumb person. So what I mean is this: if you're a cleaner or if you're a doctor, you can't do your work well without the cleaner. So we are all here to serve and serve one another. Now, I've been asked to talk more about building the generational relationships. Because of what I pointed on saying that we, as adults, we find it difficult to entrust our young people with the knowledge and experience that we have. You know, I like to always say this: if we all remove the hats that we wear when we leave our homes and just be people, human beings. Because in the truth of it, we are all beautifully imperfect, going through the same universal challenges. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a president, at the end of the day, you go home and be a parent. So why do we leave that when we leave our houses and we go to our workplaces? Because if we can take that, it will make things so easy when we get to our workplace. So when you talk to your subordinate, think as if you're talking to your sister or even to your daughter. Because if you take it that way, it makes things much easier. But the problem I know that we face is that the academic world has really focused on the mind and really left the sense of community. And we are having this challenge, hence I wrote this curriculum. You know, when I touched on what my father said, be comfortable of who you are. That taught me that I have to appreciate the next person. And if we can treat our subordinates or the young people when we thinking of entrusting them with the experience and knowledge and wisdom, if we can think about that these people, they need to know and remove the attitudes, because we must remember whatever they are today, the young people, is what we fed them, us. So we have to take responsibility. I know it's not easy, but you, all the time when you're at the workplace and you have to entrust wisdom or experience to the next person, you must remember that whatever that you see in that person is what we have fed that person. So we have to really shift our attitude, the way we see it. Otherwise, we're going to be very stressful. We're thinking that these kids, they don't listen, and we forget that who taught them not to and how. You know, as I mentioned earlier on, that we live in a different time. Things move so fast that most of the time we lose our footing. Today is this thing, tomorrow is this, tomorrow is this. We have exchanged values for valuables. And as a result, our young people, their only purpose because we have changed values for valuables. The only purpose of our young people is to acquire as much valuables as possible as they can, in sacrifice of a lot of things: dignity, moral standards, and a sense of community. Because they are there to just make the hours to make more money to acquire more valuables. And with the technology that has moved so fast, giving us no time for thought and experience, it leaves us at a space where we adults, we're really thinking, okay, what do we do now? And now it gives us, and with no other option but to really impose authority in ways that they are really also not effective. I love technology, I tell you, but what I'm talking to adults on is that what do we feed these gadgets? Because there's nothing you can do about it right now. We can't throw them away. But what's there? When our children go in those iPhones that we spend so much money buying for them, what are they feeding on? That's where the platform comes in. Because honestly, okay, maybe I really love it. Am I clear? Yes. Okay. You know, when I talk about, I want you to understand what I'm really trying to make sure that when we go into our workplaces, we are able to transfer information effectively. So, how do we transfer information effectively? Is about clear communication. Because when communication is clear and is from a point of truth and love, we have solid relationships. And if we have solid relationships, then we have a healthy society. Now, what has taken over communication in society is technology. As I've mentioned earlier on, it just left us with no space of the practical part of you know, when I grew up, my grandmother, you read on the books that I've written. The first book is more about my teenage life. The second one is on my young adult life. And the third book, The Dawn, that is coming in January, is on my adult life. But my grandmother I had a very mean grandmother. Mean, like really mean. And my grandmother, you wouldn't cross, you know, if they're papers, you wouldn't cross a paper or dead. My grandmother would really be on your case. But nowadays, you know, what happens is that you see a nurse or a sister stepping over dead or whatever. And when you ask, did you see that? He says, no, I've got a junior. Somebody must come. There's somebody who's a cleaner. She must come and do that. And I'm thinking, your subordinate, who's supposed to be you, is really observing, you know. And it's to me, that's those small things, they really matter. And simple questions that I always ask young people. Oh, you are a nurse, so is this your purpose? Because, you know, we have to have a space where we are able to help them align their career to their calling. Because we have exchanged values for valuables, it's not more about calling now, it's about how much money is that profession going to give me. So we have at some point to try bring them back. You are a nurse right now, is this what you love? So that those questions in our communication, in our engagement, in the passages and all that, is this what you like? You know, can you wake up at 4 a.m.? I tell you, I had an experience. I was working with 467 matriculants on one-on-one at St. John's College. And we were talking about the same thing of purpose. When I started, I had about 260 doctors. These are matriculants, they apply, they want to be doctors. And in our conversation, I realized that they're just chasing the title. And when I sat down with them on one-on-one, I was left with 60 doctors out of 250. Now there were nurses, now there were even media people in that 250, because we have created a young people that all valuables, and no sense of community. And as I mentioned earlier on, and you must remember, it's not of their own doing as well. It's what we have, things that we have created, not to make money, and that they were feeding on them. why I always want us to take off our academic hats when we are in the practically doing our work, it is because, or in the process of doing our work. It is because, and also why I'm saying we have to keep the communication clear enough without the jargons and all these the heavy words and all that. It is because I've noticed that as much as forced compliance is a show of obedience, it is most of the time outward and superficial. It's so thin that it cracks under the slightest pressure. What I mean is that when we put on these academic hats, we apply forced compliance. Like, do this, do that, you have to do this, you people, the way our language and our expression, and we don't realize the consequence of that, because then the person will do exactly what you're saying under that pressure, and later on you realize that it's so outward. I so believe for things to come from within, out of conviction rather than being told on what to do. So if you can try and be so mature about it and be able to talk to our young people, because I tell you the gap is so much. It's so much that we don't see each other, we can't even hear each other. And why are we creating environments that are so hostile in the very space that we live in most of our lives? We don't even have time to parent our children because we are at work. What are we doing there? So if that's one thing that I would like us to look at. If you leave your house, don't wear a different hat. Just be the same person that you are when you leave your house. Because if you go to work and you step on a paper, that means you step on a paper in your house? No. If you talk to the next person, is that how you talk to your daughter? No. So I would like us to take that point on. And also to remember that this thing that you claim you are is not without the other person. We need each other. We need each other so badly. And the other thing is that you have to remember your own personal convictions. Why are you here? If you die tomorrow, what will you say about you? What legacy are you leaving behind? Even if it's one person, that you can leave something, because you don't want to go through all these experiences and then we bury you with them. So what was the point of you being here with us? So when I see nurses and I see doctors, and by the way, I wanted to be a doctor. I couldn't fulfill the dream. So I was excited and was calling me, and I hope when doctors are here, and I love you docs, and I love you nurses, and everybody. When I get into the hospital, it's like, this is where I wanted to be. But really, people, when we live here, I would love us to treat each other as we'd like treating sisters, brothers, cousins, and everybody else, because it makes things so much easier. I believe that the light will pierce through the darkness and birth a community that is working together, looking at each other through the lens of compassion and understanding rather than judgment and jealousy. enabling one another to see ourselves for who we truly are, human beings, beautifully imperfect, going through the same universal challenges. This is what I commit to. I commit to be with you, the people who are working together and making sure that we leave the next generation with more than just a financial inheritance, but a human dignity-based, value-based inheritance to sustain them. And this is what I promise. I promise to stand on my conviction, stand my truth, willing and open to giving what I expect, mirror what I see, to be what I believe, and to reflect what I envisioned. That is what I believe, that is what I commit to, and that is what I promise. And every day when I leave home and I'm tempted to wear a different hat, I go back to those two principles. And with that, I hope when you leave here, you see me as your sister, your cousin, your child. And I would like you to take that with you when you go to work tomorrow. Thank you so much.